been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the fire building in the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay.
610B. That was the day date. 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows vented below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, everybody, we're back with another episode of Old School. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my good buddy, Chief John Salka. And we've been knocking these out, as well as our classes. John, I was just, first of all, I did a program. I told you this. I did a program for the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, okay? The Department of Public Safety. And years ago, buddy, they were like all combined, right? You did shifts as a firefighter, police officer, all that. And years and years ago, they broke that off. They're still at Department of Public Safety, but they have fire EMS as one unit, law enforcement, and then airport security. I did 3 days in a row of a version of Pride and Ownership I do for when I mix it up for law enforcement. They were incredible, buddy. They were absolutely, they were dialed in. Even the administrative folks, people from their jail. It was just I had a great 3 days there with 3 different groups. Now, how many times have you seen me talk, and you've seen it when I talk about Captain? Remember when we talk roll calls? I talk about when John Ashman would do his his roll call back, and then Chris Kirk, Captain Chris Kirk would do his. Remember in the kitchen?
Yep.
Well, Chris, we lost Chris to COVID a while back. Chris was absolutely incredible. I have him in one of my PowerPoint slides for Pride and Ownership, John. It's always, you know what he's at? He's where it says, keep it simple, get to know your people, lead by example. And because of him, his son works for DFW for the fire. And,
oh, really?
It was, because here I am.
Was that a surprise? Did you know that?
You know what? I did, but I forgot. I forgot that he worked there. You forget where some of your guys' kids work. And I'm flipping through my slides. And just clicking through them, that kind of thing. And the day before, he was coming there, I put that slide up of Chris, Tommy and Senna, the driver with his hand around, and they're in the Class A's. And if you want to know why I always say this driver engineer Tommy and Senna, why Tommy's so great? Look at that Captain Chris Kirk. That's the reason he's great. You talk about the apples don't fall far from the tree. And if you want to see why Captain Chris Kirk is great, you should have met his dad, Captain Jesse Kirk from Irving. And I go, oh my God, everything you want to be in an officer. So the chief, who's a good guy, comes up to me, and he goes, hey, his son's in the class. I went, oh, so now I'm like, all right. I met him in the morning. I'm great. Well, I got to that slide. The moment when I said that, the whole room stood up and applauded, for his dad.
How nice.
Oh, and then it got emotional, and I looked out. I got him. I'm like, and I stopped. I said, look, if you've ever had me for a class, especially Pride and Ownership, or for our company Officer Academy, but especially Pride and Ownership, I always talk about his dad. I always brag on him.
I know his dad, and I never met him. Captain Kirk from how much you talk about him.
Exactly. I mean, right? We always talk about the great ones. And John, on top of it being 3 great days with 3 great groups, that made my whole trip.
Nice.
I mean, we both got emotional. He got emotional. I got emotional. It's like we're talking. And it wasn't made up. It wasn't like, I'll just slide this picture in there.
Wasn't built into the class. And how many times has that happened to us? We say that.
Oh,
sometimes you spend a day or two somewhere by yourselves or we're together somewhere, and all of a sudden a guy comes up to you, or 2 days later, you get a little email from a guy or something that says, hey, you know what? This was a great class. You really charged my. You didn't even say nothing to us, but 2 days later you get it. We both get it.
Yeah.
You charged my battery. I feel like I was just promoted again, and it does. Even just a comment like that from one guy or one gal in the class always makes it. And those are the people that we're talking about today.
Oh, exactly. And it's a perfect lead-in for our topic. I think we talked about maybe calling this one the Dream Firefighter, but I've had Chris Kirk's picture in there long before Chris, years and years and years and years before Chris passed away due to COVID. I mean, I've bragged about him. He was one of those guys, John, that when he showed up on the tower ladder, because he was a truck guy, he's one of the ones like him and Richie that I go, come here, Cap. I go, Chris, just go fix all this shit. Just get in there and just figure this shit out for these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like
I know
you do.
exactly what you're saying.
When Timmy Klett would show
I
up.
had guys just like that as well.
Joe Precipio or Tim Klett, when you just go, Timmy, just go fix this. Just get in there, and send him in there. That was him. So it felt good. So let's do that. You and I talked briefly the other day about some of the comments that came from the show we did. Why do we always talk about Stockton, California, Wichita, Kansas, where firefighter Brian Salka is now a proud member. And I talk about Louisville. I talk about my volunteer department, Wichita West, which they're doing incredible things. We've been doing some fires lately, and the guys are doing great.
Absolutely.
What you talk about South Blooming Grove, and you always talk about the Bronx, but we don't talk about shit we can't back up. We don't talk about stuff that somebody could shoot holes in, going, wait a minute, Chief Salka. I've been to South Blooming Grove, and I've watched your guy. We talk about the real McCoys, the real things. So I think, like we said the other day, a perfect, kind of, I don't know if you segue or a perfect addition to what we did about that show. The questions came up. All right, we talked about what does it take to be that fire department. Maybe we need to talk about what it takes to be that dream firefighter. How many times how many times you and I have been in class where we've met someone and you've looked at me and gone, God, I wish for that. I worked for that guy. Or you said, God, I wish I had 50 of them as my firefighters, right? Yep. You heard me talk about. Go ahead.
And you know what it is? What you just said, they're not even really separable. They're really the same thing. That dream fire department is the dream fire department because of all the great firefighters that they have there. It's not like, the bosses are pretty good. The firefighters are okay, but the bosses are really good. No, it's these places that have these great firefighters. And contrary to maybe what our title or what some listeners are thinking, it's not like, in every big group of firefighters, there's one or two dream firefighters. A lot of firefighters are great. Right. Not most places, but lots and lots of places have a majority of firefighters that are great. You know what I'm saying? And what do you want to call them? Dream firefighters, or the top guys, or whatever they are. Guys like Willie Tracy that I used to talk about all the time. Willie unfortunately passed away just recently. But the thing is, it's those dream firefighters that make the difference. Those are the guys that are checking a rig at 6:30 in the morning or 6:15 in the morning for the 7 o'clock shift. Sometimes you see them in my job, FDNY. 9 o'clock is a shift change, which is a little odd and a little late, but that's what it is. Sometimes there's guys on the apparatus floor. They're in the building at 7 o'clock because they leave home at 6 because there's traffic. So they get in a little bit early. They're checking the rig 7 o'clock, 7:30 for a 9 o'clock shift change. I mean, they checked it an hour and a half ago before the officer comes down for the first time and says, good morning, guys. How's everything going? Hey, boss, the rig is good. I checked it this morning. Okay, thanks. So whether it's checking a rig or jumping on stuff that has to get taken care of, particularly, and again, I'll mention Willie Tracy again. I just have to because he's the guy that does it. We come back at 1 o'clock in the morning after having a little foam operation or whatever it was, and something didn't work right. Something was busted or not adjusted right or whatever, malfunctioning. And there he is at the workbench. I'm walking up the stairs. I'm just schlupping up the stairs. Get back in my bunk at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's what you do. No big deal. I look, there's a light on the workbench because you can see from the stairway. Walking all the way up, you can look behind the rig. There he is. Click, click, click. He's doing something with the light on. Willie, what are you doing? Cap, I have this fixed in a minute. Don't just throw it in a box. We'll send it to the shops tomorrow. There's a new one right in the closet.
That's not good enough. I got it. That's not good enough for him. That's not good enough for him.
And this is the same guy that when you bring your lawnmower in from home and it's in the back of your pickup truck when you're backing in for the shift change, like, what are you doing, Cap? What's with the lawnmower? I worked on it all day. I was trying to cut the grass today. I figured I'll take a look at it tonight. Yeah, we'll look at it. And by the time I take a shower and come down the steps, the lawnmower's running. There's 4 guys standing around it because why? Because they're all great guys. And they're not sucking up to the captain. If anybody brings a lawnmower in, if anybody needs something done, and that's the kind of, number one, and you know this is true. Your book says it. All my books say it. These are the kind of people that attract to the fire service to start with. Right. Even for lack of a better term, I got like censured or yelled at for the first time on Facebook the other day. I say nothing on Facebook. I call somebody a shitbird. SHIT bird, shit bird. They sent me like a warning. This is a warning. That is out of bound language. I'm like, shitbird. Really? I don't think I've made 5 entries in my whole life on Facebook. But anyway, those kind of people aren't attracted to the fire service. They're attracted to something else, I guess, but they're not attracted to firehouses. I know that. At least not, in our history.
And you and I've talked about this as well. So, you Tim Klett and the guys and the people, Nikki Giordano and all those, the list goes on. You've heard me talk forever about Curtis Burt, who's down in Pearland now. Is the ops chief. Curtis, when he was a firefighter, was like, I remember. He was at
Firehouse. I saw him about 4 times.
Yeah. And John, I remember when Curtis, we'd be in Darien Woodridge together. I was a BC. He was a firefighter. We talk. I say, hey, if you ever need anything, just come get me. And his reply to me was, if you ever need anything done, Chief, think of me first. Come get me first. You need anything done. And he's built like a brick shithouse. He's not a kiss ass. And he's made a great chief officer. Gary Apple was that way. Gary, when he was a firefighter and a driver and a captain. Brian Purcell, that had the moving business, that one of the biggest moving businesses around, every day. He's like, hey, Chief, can we get another one of those videos from Chicago with all the fire scenes to watch and all that? Just like Jimmy Spears. You met Jimmy here from Wichita West. The guy just lives, eats, and breathes what we do at that firehouse here at Wichita West. Kenny Gabriel,
a talented, skilled, professional doctor, right?
Yes.
A vet. He's a vet, and he loves what he does, and his wife does it. Yet he's still got this insatiable interest in the fire service.
Every single great leader that you and I've talked about were great firefighters. They were the dream firefighters. I would have loved to have seen Pete Lund as a firefighter. I would have loved to have seen Bill Allen as a. They didn't change, right, John?
Tom Kennedy. Yeah.
Those guys.
How about Leo Stapleton? Can you imagine old Leo Stapleton when he was a young dude? Besides, you wouldn't want to cross him. But
but none of those guys sucked. None of those guys were lazy asses. Now, look, every one of us got to where we're at because of someone else, and because we had great mentors, and we had people that kicked us in the ass. I know I got bruises up and down my backside from people that kicked me, going, Lasky, stop that. But none of these guys were throwaways, John. None of these guys were the ones that, the 1 out of 10 we talk about, that it's not even 1 out of 10, it's probably 1 out of 100 that you go, how did they get on here? Every one of those guys we talk about were great. You said it. They show up early. They show Tim. So describe Tim Klett as a firefighter before he was a lieutenant. Describe Tim.
Oh, it's absolutely the same thing. It's absolutely the same thing. And that's how when you see a guy like that, it's funny. I just wrote an article, and we were just laughing about it 10 minutes ago before we came on the air. I just wrote an article about the promotional process, planning for the promotional process. We were talking about it the other day in the other podcast, and I started thinking about it, how a lot of different departments have different procedures on not just you file for a test, you show up, you take the test, you're on a list. How promotion counts, how you had to have Brian, Wichita just changed it, supposedly, according to the guys there. It was 3 years, now it's 5. You have 5 years on a job before you can even file, before you can even join the process to be a lieutenant, to be an officer. FDNY is 3. Other places don't even have it. Other places are like, when you decide you want to be a lieutenant, you go take the test.
Right.
And they're out of it. So, the promotional process, when a guy's a great officer, whether it be lieutenant, captain, however you're structured, obviously those folks were great firefighters too. And where was Tim Klett? He was Lieutenant 80 engine. Where was he a firefighter? From 88 engine, where he was lieutenant, he was in 69 engine, which was that was the top of the pile, 69 and 28 up in Harlem, the Harlem Hilton, right? I mean, I really never worked there. Worked there once or twice as a covering battalion chief in the 16th, but one of those places that just had a reputation for decades as a great place. And when you get broken in there, you get broken in right. And that's all there is to it. Most of that work done by other firefighters, by senior firefighters. And that's who creates, dream, whatever you want to call them, dream firefighters, excellent firefighters, is the previous generation that break them in, So that's always very important. And some places, meaning some fire departments, including the FDNY at one point, soon after I retired, there were some rumors, not rumors, but I heard people talking about the job of saying, senior men don't run a company, the officers run a company, they're the ones that make policy. And I'm saying, you know what? In essence, that might be true. That might be the way it's written in the rule books, but there is nothing there is nothing as valuable as a group of senior firefighters that have been there for a long time, that have seen captains come and captains go, and good captains, good quality captains. But senior firefighters that stay there for 10 years, 15 years, thank God every firefighter doesn't want to be your boss, because some of those guys are the anchor on a company that makes it as good as it is and stay as good as it is. And they generate and produce and kick, out of the company, throw out more younger lieutenants out into the job. And 10 years later, they all come back for a union, and all sorts of guys there saying, holy cow, you're all here in 48 engine,
It's kind of like that story you talked about when James was a sergeant and the new lieutenant, the new second lieutenant, right out of college. It was chow time, and James did something probably a lot of those guys won't. They let those other people fail. Right, when it was chow time, he's like, hey, lieutenant.
Oh, he grabbed him. Yeah, hold on.
The Marines eat first. How many times have we said that senior firefighter does more for that officer? There's stuff going on the floor that you have no idea is going on as a captain lieutenant. Not illegal stuff, not stuff, but John, I just said it the other day, that senior firefighter could go, hey, come here. You know what? We don't do that shit. I don't care where you came from before. We don't do that stuff here. You got that? You or I do that. Chief Salka, Chief Lasky are waving a finger in front of my face. I want to file a grievance. I've never handled a grievance through mediation or whatever as a chief. I've never seen one where a union has allowed one firefighter to grieve another, or a volunteer has complained about another one by saying, get your act together, shape up, because I think what sometimes the younger guys forget is every one of us has an obligation to uphold the reputation of the department that those before us forged, right? The FDNY, Louisville Tech, all these departments, the guys in Stockton, the guys in Wichita, all these great fire departments out there, Coeur d'Alene, they're all fighting to defend the reputation that was built by those before them. You know what I'm saying? The caretakers. And so you have an obligation to come in and bust ass to be the best. I told you before, I've never been picked second in my life. Not in baseball, not in football. I've never been picked second in nothing. And I don't want to be. I'm very competitive, where I want to be the first one the chief looks to and says, Lasky, come here. Well, that don't happen on accident. That's like those, John, these great firefighters, the dream firefighters, just don't wake up one day and go, here I am. They were the ones you saw on the floor. Like you said, Willie, Curtis was like that. You'd have to talk about something. And guys, everybody catch it. We got to talk, something going on, right? Chief, what? Curtis be the one. Curtis be on the workbench working on a tool job, painting or doing something. Hey, Kurt, come on, man. I'll be there in a second, Chief. All right. 10 minutes later, Curtis, come on, dude. We got to get this. We got to get this. He goes, give me 5 more minutes. I'm almost done. 10 more minutes. Curtis, you have to drag him away from a project. You have to drag him away. And you've heard me say this before when I talk about record of exceptional performance forms, that one-page form. It's a formal attaboy you can fill out, right? About, one of your officers did a great job and firefighters, whatever, because we don't put up good stuff in your files. Curtis was one of the ones. I mean, you would walk by and we'd come back from a job, and where was he at? Rewrapping tools, cleaning stuff. And I remember telling him a long time ago, hey, thanks, man. He goes, for what? I said, for doing us proud. He goes, what are you talking about? I go, we were just on that call, with Tri-State. I said, our tools, even when our tools are all shitted up, they look better than everybody else's tools because of how you take care of that stuff.
So not only that, but everybody's carrying them, and the chauffeur's making sure, Tommy, grab a tool. One of the young firefighters might have forgot for a moment to take a tool, and the chauffeur grabs them. And that pride that guys have in the companies, not companies, in the department, they also have in their company. It's sort of a dual thing. Obviously everything's FDNY is great, but you probably heard me talk more about 48 engine or the 1A battalion than you have heard me talk about the FDNY. A lot people, guys, firefighters, we talk about our down to the lowest level. We talk about our company like it's literally our family. You know what I'm saying? And that's where some guys have tremendous loyalty. Like you said, I know in every fire department in America, volunteer career, some guys just stay in the same place forever and never run for office, never study for office, never take a test, not interested at all. Then you got guys like Mickey Conboy. Mickey was an officer for a long time. 9/11 came up in between there too, but he made lieutenant, and that's it. He's done. No interest in captain. Not going to be a captain, but a lieutenant for a long, long time now. I think 8 or 9 years in Squad 41.
With medals down to here.
Oh my God, forget it. Got to be one of, if not the most decorated guy. But the point is, He's always been like that. He's been a quality guy since his first day on the job at 37 Truck. Then he transferred and he went to the rescue and everything else. You know what? And those are the guys you want to. Those are the guys we want to applaud, but not only applaud, but those are the guys you want to promote. Those are the guys you want to attract, right? You want to get them into your company. When you get them in your company, those are the guys you want to. Obviously, you don't want to just crowd them all into one place unless all you guys like that, but you want to spread them around a little bit. You want to say, oh yeah, these are like the top of the pile guys. I want one over here, one over here, one in the A, one in the B, one in the C. So they all get the same good guidance from the front seat, not the right front seat, the left front seat.
Yeah, and it's rubbing off on guys. So let me ask you this. Okay, we're talking about that dream firefighter. How many firehouses, John, have you walked in as a chief or as a visiting instructor speaker, guest speaker, right? That were filthy, crapped up, shitty looking rigs, tools all messed up, or anything. They had great firefighters in. I've never walked into one. It's quite
those two things generally don't exist in the same place.
And
right.
So there's the message. Look around your fire, right? Look around your fire. Look at your firehouse. Look at outside. Look at inside. If you stood across the street, I always tell guys, if you stood across the street, look at your firehouse that the public sees, that people and other firefighters and buffs, what would you think about your own firehouse? Are the bushes trimmed up? Is it clean? Do you wash the apron down once in a while? The lights all burned out on or whatever? What would you think about your firehouse standing across the street looking at it? You know, there's times.
It's funny you should say that because was it yesterday? Yeah, it wasn't today. It must have been yesterday. We had a run in a volunteer house, and I got there, but I got there late. They were just rolling out the door. I didn't even stop them. They were like, "You want to jump?" I said, "Go." I'm not going to make you wait for me to go in and get my gear and everything. So I put the doors up and they left. And now I'm standing in there. Now, and both rigs are gone now, the rescue and the engines for MVA. And now I'm sort of walking around. I took the run sheet out. I started filling out. And while I'm walking around, which you generally don't get to do, even on Wednesday night, you're always doing something. Now I was doing nothing. So now I'm looking around, I'm looking at the blackboard, I'm looking at the map, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that. I'm saying, look at these young company officers. Boy, they got this place squared away. There was a whiteboard and all the drawings and questions and answers from the last drill were still up there. And I know who it is. It's Will and Kenny and all these young guys that are just great. And it was such a surprise when they all ran for officer like 5 or 6 years ago, but now they've all been officers for 5 or 6 years. And boy, oh boy, we got it made. These young guys, and these guys haven't been to 10 good fires, first two. They've been to 10 good fires, but not 10 good fires first two, like you go to in a week in 48 Engine or in Louisville or a lot of these other places. So I was so proud walking around the firehouse by myself, being the ex-chief and just sort of a senior guy. And it was just taking the time to look around a firehouse and say, man, you know what? This is a good place. And it's not a good place because of the firehouse. It's a good place because you got good people, you know?
Oh, exactly. And like that's just it. I've stood up. How many times have we been visiting somewhere? You know me. I'm like, and I was just at Engine 58 in Detroit, right? You were back. Maureen had her baby. Went up there, did the battalion chief's camp. We went to dinner there with our favorite lieutenant. You know what I'm talking about? With our favorite lieutenant. You talk about a ball of passion. That guy's awesome. But Engine 58's course, and we pull up, we stop with the guys from Warren, you know, and we're walking, and I stepped back and took a picture. Here's this old firehouse, kind of small, but, you know, and old. It's kept up. You know, the outside, it looked, you know what I'm saying? It just, you know, it wasn't like you pull up and you go, is this place abandoned or is it real? This Detroit firehouse looked pretty cool. You know, and when you walk in and you see the personality, again, I've never been to a filthy firehouse with an engine that looked like crap or ladder and rusted tools and stuff with great firefighters. They just, like you said, they don't go together.
And the same thing with the rigs. And we even talk about it in class. Sometimes we go somewhere and they got like a 1989, you know, Seagrave pumper, and we're like, holy crap! What is that? A spare? No, that's it. That's it. We get another one coming in about another 5 years. And even though it's old and it's visibly old, it's not all shitted up. It's not all dented up. You can see that the diamond plate was dented in, and you can see it got banged back out, and somebody threw a silver brush across it, you know, to keep it looking okay. You can see that there was, you know, somebody cut a nice brand new piece of plywood with some nice, you know, nuts and bolts and put it on the bottom of the compartment that was rusted through. So now they still got a compartment to put tools in because it's rusted through. So even an old rig, sometimes you can look at it and you can see the pride that the guys in the company have on it. So it doesn't have to be new stuff. Doesn't have to be brand new gear, because you and I have been in firehouses that you could lick the floor and you could lick the tools, and it was clean as go. And you know what? And they couldn't find, a toilet paper in an outhouse, So it's not always that stuff is new, but stuff is maintained. You can see that people take care of stuff,
Well,
They surprised me a couple of weeks ago in South Plymouth Grove, Wednesday night. I come walking into the firehouse. They got tables on the apparatus floor. There's about 8 of them sitting there. They got all the tools out, and it was the night that they decided to cut all the old tape off and retape the tools. Not only the identification tape, like we have red, white, blue, because we're the Independence Fire Company,
that's pretty cool.
So we have red, white, and blue on all the axe handles and all the hooks. But also we got the rope, the white rope, then wrapped with the rubber tape on top for the grip on the handles. They take that off now occasionally and redo that when it starts to get shitted up. And they're all just sitting there talking and getting it done. And like you said, for another 3 months now, whenever they pull them tools out, it looks like somebody did it 10 minutes ago. And it's noticeable. At least to me, it's noticeable,
Well, exactly. And you and I've said this a bunch of times as well. We have walked into 100-year-old firehouses that were, look, they're worn. You can't have a 100-year-old firehouse and not show somewhere, you know what I'm saying? But they were awesome. They were clean. The rigs look good. The guys were down. They trained. And like you said, we've been to gold medal architectural award-winning firehouses, and they sucked. You know what I'm saying? Right. So I guess the line is you have to have the whole. You got to be the whole thing. You can't just pick and choose what you can be great at. Like we talked before about when you guys started doing EMS runs, and you told your guys what's 48 engine. We're the best. We're the best in the city. We're best in the Bronx. We're the best at fires. Well, guess what? We're gonna be best at EMS too. You can't say, oh, we're great at fires and we're not gonna be great at EMS.
And we give it a half effort on EMS. Right?
Exactly. So let me ask you this. So you're sitting there, 18th Battalion, or you're at South Blooming Grove. Describe from start to finish that dream fire. Like we talked about. We've said, God, I wish I made that comment on this show about Jimmy Spears going, and him, and now Bradley. Bradley's the same way. Bradley Carver. These guys, Bradley just built shells for the engine and paint. They are doing stuff. In fact, if you want to see a hoarding situation, look at their 2 lockers in the firehouse. They got their battery charge. They have stuff. They have all their lockers are loaded with all their stuff and everything else. You can just tell they're into it. So describe. We've said this before. You're sitting there. Describe the MO, if you will.
Right.
The routine of that great firefighter. The one that
I'll tell you what.
Want to see.
It takes a while because number one, well. And nobody's a great firefighter without everybody knowing it. So guys know Willie Tracy, this guy, that guy, right? So they're always the first one in on a career department. But even in a volley department, they're the guy that stops by at lunch. They're the guy that stops by at 6 o'clock and has a sandwich in the firehouse before the 7 o'clock drill when people aren't even there yet. That's the guy that when something needs to be done, I already described Willie Tracy fixing the foam reductor or the nozzle, whatever it might be. Those are the guys that are first off the rig when you get to the box. When you get to the alarm, that's the first guy off the rig. And he's like, it's your 3/4 cap or whatever his suggestion is. You know what I'm saying? Some guys don't have to be told. Willie, also he's off the rig already. This guy's going and doing it. They're the guys that are always dressed right. Those are not the guys that would try and go in without the gloves or without their hoods or something like that. Those are the guys that pause at the back step to get everything done, or they're putting up their hood and their gloves as they're walking next to the rig, so they don't have to be delayed. Those are the guys when one guy's pulling it, they tell Tommy, no, not that one. Take the one to the right. Take pre-connect number 1. It's a little bit farther, and always helping out. Another thing, and you and I, this is true, and this has a lot to do with being a good firefighter, but mostly with being a good person. They don't badmouth anybody. Even a new firefighter that comes into the company, maybe that's not such a good guy, maybe even not such a good person. Good firefighter isn't the guy that says, yeah, this new guy's I don't know if he's going to fit in here. He's a bit of a shitbird. He's not going to say that. He's the guy that's going to go up to him and say, hey, you're new here, right? You a firefighter somewhere else, or is this new to you? Hey, hang out with me. Let's try and do. He's the guy that'll try and bring a guy up to help the company rather than knock a guy down to make himself look good, And I mean, I could just go on and on and on. He's the guy that's up at midnight working on a rig. He's the guy that I don't know how else you don't even ask him to do stuff. You come down in the afternoon and all of a sudden he's washing the rig. You're like, Billy, what are you washing the rig for? I think Tommy washed it yesterday. Yeah, I know, but we went to that call this morning at the junkyard. We got dust all over. It looks like hell. I'd hate it to look like this if we had to run downtown, I mean, you could just go on. And there are guys and gals like that. And we've had some of them working for us at FDIC and elsewhere. There are guys that are like that. And there are guys that are pretty good. that aren't just like that. They're pretty good, but they're not the excellent. They're not the
Right.
dream firefighters, you know?
Well, and I'll say this: if you're looking to be that great firefighter, that dream, to be the firefighter that every officer wants working for him, then do it. It's been an old, like, Nike framework. Just do it. I mean, that's a, I talk about my buddy Ron Kittle for the White Sox, the big PR guy that I spent 2 spring trainings with Ron. And you've heard me say this about change. There's like 2 million books out there that have been written, probably more than on change. Everybody gets all hoodooed about change. And Kitty got up one morning. He's on Facebook. He's the big PR guy for the White Sox now. He left Chicago, played Cleveland, the Yankees, then back with Chicago after that. All-star, rookie year, 83, all that stuff. Kitty posted a meme. I know what a meme is, everybody. I know what a meme is on Twitter. And his meme was this, John. This is what he put on there on Facebook and Twitter. I got up this morning and didn't like what I saw, so I changed just like that. I got up this morning and didn't like what I saw, so I changed just like that. And immediately 2 million change books got thrown in the garbage because he's like, stop making it so complicated. So if you're looking at another firefighter going, why does he or she get all the smiles? Why does he or she get all the, look at your own. It's time to step back and examine your own performance, your own job performance. Like you said, how early do you get there? How early do you get to your volley place for drill night, for meeting night, for fundraisers, whatever? Okay. How early did you get there for your shift? And we've talked about this not being a Minuteman and getting there. And do you respect the uniform? Do you take care of your uniform because that uniform represents more than anybody else in the room? Do you take care of your tools, your rigs, your firehouse? What's your firehouse routine? How we've been. I love, when you see the guys you're having dinner and that little chunk of napkin, and it falls off someone's plate, and immediately a guy reaches over, picks up, throws it in the trash. I'm just saying, it's like, that's my house. This is my house, and it's not like, hey, pick up your trash. And then like you said, then there's the attitudes and the motivators. They don't trash talk. Now they may go, John, come here for a second. Jesus, man, what do we got to do? Okay, you know what? How about I do this, you do that, and we'll see if we can get them fired up, or we get them, maybe if you talked about this.
Or even more stern than that. Even how about we don't do that anymore, okay? That's not how we do things right. I talked to you once about that before. This isn't a boss. This is a fellow firefighter. This is a brother firefighter. But a senior guy talking to maybe a new guy or a guy that just needs a little straightening out, and that's what they do. And I've had that said to me. I've had that said to me when I was a young firefighter at 34 Engine. I had a guy come up to me and say, and what'd you do? Do you think that was the right thing to do now afterwards? No. All right, good. I'm glad you recognize that. Because, and what he was going to say was, people notice that stuff. And that was going to be my next point that I just sort of fell into anyway by telling that story is, and everybody knows who the great firefighters are. Yeah. Everybody knows Mickey Conboy is a top of the pile guy. Everybody knows it. And there's not a single guy anywhere that would disagree with it. I'm not saying there's not a single guy that doesn't like Mickey Conboy. Maybe there is. But you know what? Everybody knows.
I've never found him.
No. And if there's a rescue to be made, and I'm talking tactically now, operationally, there's a rescue to be made. If there's a fire to be put out, if there's something to be done, you better be double timing if Mickey Conboy's there. Because if you don't, he's going to be in the door ahead of you. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of guy he is. And there's guys that are like that at fires, at the firehouse, on the training ground, in the parking lot. When helping one of the guys fix his flat in the parking lot after a shift, he's the first guy down the stairs saying, Tommy, get the jack off the apparatus floor. And of course, when he says that, 3 guys jump up together because he's saying it, and they're changing the guy's tire out in the apparatus, out in the parking lot. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The positive effects that great guys and gals have on the company and the department.
Well, and how many times I wrote about it in Pride and Ownership, and you and I wrote about it at 5-Alarm Leadership together. The go-to guys. I always joke in class. I go, my buddy John Salka, he calls them his favorites. He goes, oh, those are your favorites. I call them my go-to guys because essentially that's who they are. The people you can go to. First of all, not with any project, anybody will jump all over and knock out the funnel. Oh, we'll do that, Chief Salka, for you. Don't. But what about when you have a crappy, you're like, oh God, and you look, haven't you ever done where you go, who's on today? Oh crap! All right, I'll wait till tomorrow because I don't want to deal with these guys bitching and you know what I'm saying.
You're the one that said you had that boss that makes cleaning the grease traps.
Oh, Bill Allen. Bill Allen can make.
I never met Bill Allen, but I love him just from those stories that you tell.
He can make cleaning the grease traps fun. That guy. But now, so when we talk about, here's one of the things we talk about with go-to guys. that great firefighter, the dream firefighter, you don't find them in the corner on their phone the whole day. Not to say, look, we all have our smartphones. We're all like watching YouTube videos on fires and doing stuff. It's life now. But when the work has to be done, John, when there's a project, when there's stuff, it's like, where's he at again? Oh, he's over in the corner on his phone or something. You never see it with the go-to guys. They got their priorities together. And I tell this story, you know this. I had my roofing business early in life, right? Young firefighter, paramedic, just like my dad, roofer. At one point, I had like 20-something guys working for me, bunch of trucks. And I couldn't wait to get back to work every third day for every shift so I could rest. And Bob Gleick was like a 35-year firefighter. And he comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, I see you hire all firefighters for your business." I said, "Well, yeah, but I believe in keep money in the family." He goes, "Yeah, I see you pay them good too." I go, "Well, they work good though too." He goes, "Could I get some time with you?" Well, it kind of depends, Bob. I got a lot of guys. I mean, how much you looking for? He goes, "Oh, maybe just 8 hours a week." I said, "Oh, yeah, shit, I could do that. Yeah, no problem." He goes, "Oh, cool." He goes, "I want to get some mad money. I could squirrel away from the old lady and stuff." I said, "No, perfect, no problem." He goes, "Hey, I got a question for you." I said, "What's that?" He goes, "Do I get vacation days with that?" I said, "No, Bob, it's a part-time job." He goes, "No sick time?" And I'm like, "No, Bob, it's a part-time job. You don't get vacation sick time." He goes, "Really? So next year you tell me I get no health benefits, no pension?" I go, "Bob, it's a part-time job." And he looks at me, John, and he points, he goes, "Maybe you ought to think about that." And he walked away. And I'm, we're both half Italian, half Polish. It means we have real bad tempers, forget what I'm mad at. So the Polish side is going, "Doesn't he get it's a part-time job?" And the Italian side is going, "Hey, Chuchi, that message was for you. Get your priorities in order. Remember, we talked about keeping the number one job. His message was, I don't care. You got it. Look, you and I, Brian Purcell, one of the biggest moving companies in Texas and probably the best part of the country. You'd never know it. The guy, when he was on duty, maybe at night, guys get their pool business out, stuff like that. Right. But during the day, checking the rigs, training, watching videos.
And two more stories. You just told about him and you just told about the other guy. And the point is, they noticed. Guys noticed that you came into work and relaxed when you were running that business. That's why he said something to you.
That's right.
Guys noticed. Purcell doesn't. Then he comes into work and you wouldn't even know he was running the business with a bunch of guys doing a bunch of moving. He comes into work and he pours himself into the job. Everybody's watching. They're not watching to be critical, but they are watching. And if you're doing something wrong, people are going to notice it.
Well, you've said this 1,000 times in class about company officers. They're watching you. People are watching. Your best buddies watching you. They're watching you as a firefighter. Are you one? First of all, like I said, I'll be honest with you, I had very little patience for the guys that didn't love the job and didn't care. That was a hard thing for me, John. Hard thing for me. And that was another Bill Allen lesson for me. I couldn't believe people didn't love being a firefighter as much as I did. How could they just treat it as a job? Right. And Bill Allen said, because Ricky, not everybody loves it like you. There's different levels. He goes, all that matters is that you love the job. He goes, you can't change. And this goes back to what Tommy Schiavino's advice. Worry about the things you can fix, not things if you can't. You can't fix other people. What you can do is lead by example. What you can do is lead with such a positive energy, like that Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People book, where that positive circle is spinning and spinning. And then the outside is this little ring of negatives. And all you're hoping every now and then is that your energy, that your is also, whoop, you're grabbing a guy and dragging into your side. Because haven't you seen guys, John, on your job? On the Valley Place in South Bloomington was a great volunteer fire department, just like Wichita West here. Haven't you seen guys at your Valley or your career place in the Bronx that were not your favorite, and they just seem to, and then one day it's like the light bulb, a bell went off.
And you're like, what happened to him?
Yeah. And you welcomed him. You
hugged him. He's running the drill and he's the first guy in.
Yeah.
And you find out, he's, whatever happened, the guy finally clicked. And that's a success.
Exactly. And you know what you do? I tell people, embrace them, hug them, say, "Oh, well, hey, well, I mean, it took you 20 years, but you're here."
Glad to see you finally join the fire department. Because they know you're right, Yeah. And it wasn't the boss, and it wasn't me. I've seen some of the senior firefighters finally get through to a guy and say, "Hey, now you got it." And the guy is really enjoying himself,
So to kind of recap things, all right. We're looking at that great firefighter, the dream firefighter, that great one, we'll call it that. We're looking for that guy or gal that shows up early for their shift or their drill in or whatever, shows up early, wears the uniform, gets dressed, they're ready to go, proud, uniforms kept, looking good, remember what it represents, take care of their firehouse, the building first, then taking care of everything inside of it. That's their apparatus. That's their tools. They're into the job. They train. They take care of each other. They don't trash talk. They mentor the young firefighters. I used to say this in the interview, John, in Louisville. When we do for rookie, we're interviewing the new firefighters. I would say, be the kind of rookie firefighter that the other shifts are jealous of. Be the rookie firefighter that everybody brags about, going, hey, have you seen who our rookie is? Be the one that the other shifts go, how do they always get the good ones? Be the one.
You get him. That's right.
Yeah. How did you get him or her? And that's so, you know what? You want to be a great firefighter. You want to be one of the great ones. Then do it. Take a look. You know what? I said it about look at your firehouse. Step back and look at yourself, just like you would your firehouse. Your appearance, your attitude, your professionalism, your experience, your talent, your educational background, training wise. Are you training? Are you? What do you say about New York City? Two things I want you to repeat. You tell your probies what? Now that you got on the job,
right? Get into the job.
Get in the job, and then you always said this about, fix it for me. You don't have to get ready, or what is it? If you be ready,
you don't have to get ready if you stay ready.
That's right, baby.
I love that one. I forget where I heard that, but I love that one.
In fact, that's another topic for another show.
Boy, oh boy.
Seriously, you know what? That's it. There's no science behind this. There's nobody with beakers and Bunsen burners and smocks on somewhere going, this is what you have to do, mixing potions to be great firefighters. There's no voodoo. Be a great firefighter. Be the kind of firefighter that people go, God, you know what? And John, let me say this before we wrap up. Don't worry about what people say. Don't let the bullies and the thugs, the lazy asses, don't let them steal from your passion. And don't let them, I don't care what they say. They call you a kiss ass. Go, I'm not a kiss ass. I love the job. So I guess if loving the job makes me a kiss ass, then I guess I am.
I remember somebody calling me a buff one time. Some old guy, some guy that was just hanging around for the hours and for the paycheck. Some guy, maybe it wasn't an old guy. I can't remember who it was, but it doesn't matter. It was a guy that wasn't into the job. Said to me, man, you're a buff. And you know what I said? I said, from you, I'll take that as a compliment. You know? And
exactly. Yep. Exactly. Like I said, you and I see it. You show up at the firehouse. The firehouse looks great on the outside. It looks great on the inside. Their apparatus, their tools, their uniforms, their attitudes. You and I said it. Having dinner with the guys in Detroit. The energy. I was telling Jim, my buddy up there, from Warren, Michigan. I go that I left there invigorated. I left hanging with those guys.
We left there invigorated last time.
Oh yeah, just right. You're like, we went back and go, God, could you imagine work with those guys? Those are the conversations that go on around a kitchen table all the time. And it's like
how a show for the guys that are with them that night. That's how they are if they're in the back of the kitchen.
That's it. So, hey, simple thing. Be that great firefighter. Be the one that other people want to be like. Blaze that trail for other people to follow. So, John, if they want to get a hold of you, I ask you every single show. We're wearing them out with it. But what's your email?
ChiefJohnSalka@gmail.com.
And I'm Chief Lasky @gmail.com. We both got our websites, johnsalka.com, chieflasky.com. Check them out. Give us a holler if you need anything or you want us to come out and do a program for you, or if we're going to be in your area.
Got ideas for a topic for a future.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a great idea, let us know. With that, we always end our show. You should be able to recite this better than we can. We always ask you to please keep the men and women in our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember, never forgetting means just that, never forgetting. Be safe. God bless you. And we'll see you the next time on Old School.